Well, students, a legal course can take you down many paths, and the person I'm interviewing today has actually chosen journalism as a path after doing law. So our special guest is Jon Faine. Jon, thanks for being here.
Thanks, Rob.
So Jon, you studied law, and when you got admitted, you then worked with a couple of private firms, and then you worked at a community legal centre. What was that transition like from a private law firm to a community legal centre?
It's really bad form to correct the interviewer, but I'm going to anyway. I didn't really study law, but I did get through law school. I didn't do much studying at all, and it's a bit of a mystery how I got through. And at the end of the year, when I crammed for the exams, I remember feeling really what a waste it had been, because this was really interesting, and I wish I'd actually done some of the work during the year. But I managed to get through, and I got a very ordinary pass degree from RMIT University, and I got articles in a big city firm, and I found myself in no time on the 26th floor of a city office block, where people would come up in the lift as millionaires and they'd go down in the lift as paupers because they'd left their assets behind in a trust. And I thought, shit, that's pretty good. I wonder how they do that. And learned all those intricacies and became, of all things for me, a commercial litigator. And it was really weird because that was a completely foreign world to me. I hadn't studied company law, I hadn't studied trusts, I hadn't studied any of the sorts of things I suddenly needed. And so this is a confession against interest as it goes. I shot through at lunchtime in the second week to the law book company bookshop and bought those cram books on company law and trusts law and all the things that I was supposed to be doing so that I could read up on it overnight. But what I suppose I learned then was that the skills I'd learned at law school were the same skills whether you applied them to immigration law or crime or taxation and trusts. It didn't matter. It was the same way of thinking about things and solving a problem. So the difference then, I did 4 years of commercial litigation in 2 city firms, and then I went to Fitzroy Legal Service, and those skills I learned in the commercial environment, they were absolutely invaluable. It meant I was much better as a legal aid lawyer because I'd learned the discipline of private practice, and it's incredibly disciplined because there's a lot of money at stake. So those skills transferred, and I thought I was working hard in a private law firm where I was working, sometimes 6, even 7 days a week and huge caseload. And then I went to the legal service and I found I could work even harder. And the reason, I suppose, was because I really cared. I was doing what I wanted to do. I wasn't doing what I was being told to do.
And you then went from Fitzroy Legal Service to create a career in the media. Some would say a morning radio superstar. You told me to say that.
Failed shock jock.
But your legal background, has that helped you in your career in journalism?
Every day. Every day. And there's a couple of things you learn, and these are the intangibles. So there is no course in any law school I know of that teaches you how not to be bluffed, teaches you the confidence that comes from knowing how stuff works and how shit happens. And then you come out saying, well, I've got the tools here. I've learned and I've applied through the clinical program that you run, and lots of good law schools run clinical programs. Lots of law schools are doing that now. So you learn how to negotiate. You learn how to distill. Someone will tell a rambling story and you learn how to distill what actually matters out of it, and then how to apply it and how to find a remedy for someone's problem. And those are skills that apply in every walk of life, which is why law is becoming such a universal qualification.
Sure, and so I guess you've probably answered this question, but if you had your time over again, would you undertake a law course?
Oh, absolutely. And when the ABC come to their senses one day and throw me out, I'd go back to the law, because it's just and I'm not burned out like lots of my contemporaries. I'm 59 this year, and so lots of my friends are either retiring, good luck to them, or they're judges or they're senior partners in firms and they're being pushed aside by younger people, whereas I'm still kind of like, wow, I kind of miss it a bit in a way. And some of the friends I made and the relationships I formed practicing law, they're the strongest friendships and relationships that I've got in my life. So that's been invaluable, and the skills I've learned, the techniques I've learned. When I do talks to journalism students, they say, oh, tell us some of those tricks so that we can use them. Things like you don't ask questions unless you've got at least an inkling, if not a clear idea, of what the answer is that you're trying to drive to, and how not to be bullshitted and bluffed and stuff. That's all really important.
What impact do you think the media has on the delivery of justice in Victoria?
Oh, enormous, enormous. And we're in a period of incredible change in the media at the moment. We're going through this revolutionary transformation, which your students are living. And those of us at the stage in our careers that you and I are at, we're struggling to keep up with this digital transformation and the convergence of different platforms. And so what's happening is that some of the old ways of things, of power being distributed in the community, particularly newspapers and free-to-air television, those empires are collapsing in front of our very eyes, and all these new ones and new ways of persuading people and being an advocate and an activist in the community, they're rising up in their place. It's this incredibly exciting swap over. So at the moment, if you're interested in justice, law reform, social activism, if you're interested in all of those things, making the world a better place, it's an incredibly exciting time to have those tools, to have those skills, know how it all works. The media is going through this incredible flux. It's no longer as centralised and controlled as it used to be. You know, your tabloid papers and your evening news are nothing like as powerful as they were even 5, let alone 10 years ago. And people aren't quite sure what's going to replace them. That's happening as we speak. It's really exciting.
Okay, Jon Faine, we give you a magic wand and you can use that magic wand to change 1 or 2 things in the legal system. What things would you change?
I think I'd put Rob Hulls back in charge. That'd be the first thing that you could do. That'd be the single... Well, no, more seriously, I'm a great believer in democracy. I think it's by far the best system anyone's found, even though, you know, people are, you know, tearing it down at the moment as we speak. But at the same time, I want people to be engaged and active. And I don't really care. I mean, I do, but I care what sort of activism. I'm not that interested in, you know, Tea Party activism, because I don't believe in it and I don't agree with it. But at least they're active, at least they're participating, at least they're engaged. What I really can't understand is people who say, oh, I don't care about that. That really is what upsets me. So I just want people to care. I want people to be involved. I want people to understand how they can play a role in the functioning of the community. I mean, what we've got here, it's pretty much the envy of almost everybody on the face of the earth, and you know, we are incredibly lucky people, and that doesn't happen accidentally. It happens because people have made it happen, and I want people to take an active role in maintaining it.
Okay, and final question, we've got a lot of JD students, law students, watching
Poor
this.
things, I express my absolute profound sympathy to them. No, it's a terrific thing to do.
One or 2 tips or bits of advice for them, what would they be?
Don't underestimate how hard you have to work. One of the big shocks, I really remember this, you know, you had looking around the lecture theatre and the last lecture of the last subject of the last week of final year of Monash Law School, and I looked around the room and I thought, well, shit, is there anybody out of all this lot that I'd put my affairs in the hands of? Is there anyone here that I trust enough that I'd want them to look after me, and how do they feel about me? Now, the transition from the academic environment to the practical environment involves a whole lot of hard work and stamina. No one ever explained, you know, your students might be different because a lot of them are in the workforce or they're mature age, but that was the biggest shock to me of all. I was ready for the intellectual challenge. I had no idea that people were expecting you to give up your life and devote yourself. And now I think, and the advice I give to anyone who asks, is make sure you have a balance, because you can throw yourself in, but you lose who you are along the way, and you're not as good a lawyer, you're not as good an advocate, you're not as good a counsellor or a partner or a parent if you throw yourself in and lose that balance. And you're much more useful to everybody if you maintain it, and you're a real person with a real life as well as being passionate about your work.
Well, there you go, students. There's some great advice from Jon Faine. Care, get involved, work hard, but get the balance right. And I guess remain true to yourself. Thanks very much.